Everybody, and welcome to World of Dungeons Turbos. We'll be using the Breaker system outside the traditional Breakers universe to go through the classic White Wolf vampire subsetting supplement, Dirty Secrets of the Black Hand, except this time traveling to Enoch will not be for vampires awaiting initiation into the higher mysteries of their order, but for completely innocent hunters um, who are waiting to find out more about vampires than they ever hoped or expected to know. That's right. We have four wonderful mortals here with us, and I'm sure that nothing bad will happen at all. Dirty Secrets of the Black Hand was a 1995 supplement for Vampire the Masquerade, and it was re-released as The Black Hand a few years ago for Vampire 20th Edition. It was one of my favorite supplements in the White Wolf Vampire the Masquerade line, and I'm hoping you will enjoy coming along with us as much as I'm looking forward to this. This is a Gauntlet game. We're following the Gauntlet inclusivity policy, and in line with that, we're using the X card as a safety tool. I think that we if you run into content that's problematic, if you run into content that's just belabored, or you just kind of want to skip past details on something, you have a few different options. And I will be posting our roll for a party room, which is our online dice roller. There is an X card button there. You can also use the X card in just a moment. I'll be posting that. But you can also just use the X card by crossing your arms as an X on the screen, or just saying X card. Since people are not necessarily always watching the screen, and pop-up windows can be kind of hard to note if people are looking elsewhere. Saying X card will be probably the most efficient way to let us know that we've hit content that's problematic for you. We will then just simply move past that material. We may briefly stop to clarify what was X-carded, but there's no need to explain anything other than just kind of making sure we're all on the same page about what was X-carded, so we know to avoid that in the future. We have, as I said, 4 hunters, and I am going to start with Rich Rogers. He'll be introducing us to his hunter.
Hey, I am going to be playing a guy by the name of Reginald Darrens. Reggie is very intimately familiar with vampires, and you would not have expected him to become a hunter based on his history. In the 70s, he was a teenager struggling to get through school in an inner city, and after a night of bad decisions, a vampire took him and made him into a servitor of herself. Her name is Isabel, and they traveled together. He was her loyal servant for many years. And just about 4 years ago, it was New Year's Eve, Times Square, and she disappeared. And he has started to age after all of that being halted because he survived on her blood, along with food. You know, didn't have all the advantages of those guys. And he's been hunting for her obsessively since that point, and joined with this group because they hunt vampires, and he's okay if the other ones die. They were mostly dicks, but not her. Definitely not her. That's Reggie.
Thanks. Great to meet Reggie. And then I think we're going to move over to Daniel, played by Jesse Abelman.
Hi. So I'm going to be playing Daniel, who is a former military sniper who found out about vampires while being attacked by one on a mission, and he sought solace in the arms of the Catholic Church, which found him useful as a weapon against vampires. And so he's, for the past, let's say, 8 or 10 years, since he's in his, well, I'll get to the description in a second. For the past 8 or 10 years, he's been working, since he left the military formally, he's been working as a vampire hunter for the Catholic Church. Daniel is in his early 40s. He's he's a tall, a little bit over tall compared to me in real life, a little bit over 6 feet, not a giant, broad, black man.
Thank you. And moving on from Daniel to Sylvia, the German doctor. Mark, do you want to introduce Sylvia?
Yes, my name is Mark Causey. I'll be playing Sylvia Götterdam. I think that's how it's pronounced. Philip may slap me around later. And she grew up career-minded, didn't have time for relationships or things like that, and she became a pediatric oncologist. And one day, through some weird events, a child that was a vampire that was asleep in torpor was brought to her, and after a few weeks of trying to determine how this child was still alive, and discovering the potent effects of the child's blood, she accidentally awoke the vampire, and another hunter had shown up and saved her from attack. And she learned of the world of vampires through that. Her mentor was violently killed by vampires, and so she hunts them today, not only because of that, but also because of the scientific progress that can be made in saving human lives. Also, I've got magic. Boom.
Thank you. And then, played by Philip, Nate.
Yep, Nate Bronson is a guy in his late 30s, a Caucasian, bearded, well-trained. He is a rescue diver, specializing in cave rescue, or that was his job before he encountered some vampires down in a cave and killed them. And now he knows that there is another kind of catastrophe out there that he has to stop. So he joined up with hunters, and his skills are quite useful in attacking vampire havens, as it turns out. So that's why he is taking missions like the one we are about to go on. Also, he's carrying a lot of equipment around with him, so he's kind of the mule of the party.
Nice, thank you. All right, as we have been answering some questions and talking a little bit about characters, and as we did so, I let these guys know that you're starting in Paris, that you'll soon be leaving. You're actually buckling into a private jet. And I'm wondering how many of your characters have flown by private jet before. Reggie, oh yeah, you know, as a kept human for a vampire. Yeah, I think that Isabel probably had access to flying a private jet before. What about the rest of you?
Not the luxury kind of private jet, but the hey, we need someone to get there fast because there are lives at stake kind of jet. So I have flown, as a different kind of a passenger than non-commercial airline. But I guess that's true for our soldier as well.
Yeah, I have never flown on a private jet. I have sometimes been waiting on the tarmac when someone important lands in one. but and I may even have assaulted one once, but never been on the inside as a passenger.
So for everybody but Reggie, this is a little bit of a new experience of luxury. And as you buckle in, you know that you have fake travel documents. Sylvia, why was your team in the vicinity of Paris to begin with for the past 2 weeks?
Reggie had found out that someone had gone into one of Isabel's sanctums in Paris, and we were tracking down that as a clue. And I'll leave it up to him as to how far we got in that, but we've either hit a dead end or we have to move on.
Like dead end or possibly scraps of clues that set us up for Enoch.
You did find a strange piece of broken stone in the remnants of the sanctuary. There's no sign of Isabel having been there recently. That you could note. There was no sign of extended habitation or usage, but that may have been hard to find because the place had been wrecked. And clearly they were scared away because one of the things that was left there was something that they were probably looking for, one of the things they were probably looking for, Reggie, which is a scrap of stone using a cuneiform-like alphabet, but experts you could talk to at the Vatican or with connections that Daniel can provide could not identify it as actually cuneiform. It is about 1.5 feet tall. It looks like it was knocked by physical force off whatever it was mounted onto, or off a larger piece of stone. And you have about 1 foot of it that was clearly disconnected from a much larger writing. And my sense of being able to talk about rocks is pretty limited, so we'll call it there was a marble that had some inscriptions in it, and it's badly damaged, but the piece you have that shows the writing that no one can identify. When one of the Vatican's funding contacts, someone who routinely gives money over to the Vatican or other vampire hunting organizations to fund, they've money that's paid you before, money that's gotten you guys across the ocean before, or gotten you guys things you needed before. Her name is Antoinette Sauveterre. And I feel like Nate, you've had an experience of some sort with Antoinette before. What was your previous relationship with Antoinette? That question was for Nate.
Okay. Yeah, Antoinette, yeah, I helped her out before, getting into into an old gravesite where one of her archaeologists has been lost. I found the guy and the old writing he was carrying. But and yeah, she did they lowered like a rope, but she insisted on saving the writing first. So I kind of mistrust her because I think her priorities are wrong. But she has been helpful. She has been providing us with useful equipment.
You know that her research interests are the archaeological type, which seems to be how she discovered or found out about vampires. But she, like you said, she does donate a lot of money, and gives a lot of it through, funnels a lot of it through the church or through other organizations towards you guys. It occurred to you and to her that it would be very suspicious to whoever had trashed Isabel's sanctum, that you guys immediately left Paris and flew back to New York City. But based on Antoinette's contacts, there is a scholar at Columbia University in New York who may be able to identify the writing. Antoinette says that she sent images of the writing to him. It's Dr. Terrence Brown is the researcher you'd want to find. Antoinette has sent images from the materials to him, and he's responded positively that he thinks if he can look at it, he may be able to identify things. Antoinette has made arrangements for you to travel by her private jet to New York and meet with him using fake paper, so that there is no record of you leaving Paris, traveling to New York, or anything like that, so that there's nothing that would immediately raise suspicion. Do you have any questions before as you're buckling in? And the very charming, friendly pilot has come around, shaking everybody's hands. There's a co-pilot and a flight attendant, but otherwise it's just the four of you on this flight. The private jet. One thing you always possibly noticed about private jets, Reggie, is they always feel amazingly small. You have tons of leg room, but for flying across the ocean, private jets always feel amazingly small. Does anyone have questions or anything we should address before the flight gets underway?
Can I smoke on the plane?
You cannot smoke on the plane.
And I pull out a little canister of chewing tobacco and stick some in my lip.
Oh yeah, you can do that on the plane. Any other questions? All right. The flight takes off and is underway. I believe it's about a 7-8 hour flight. You are headed for JFK. And who is carrying the object?
How heavy is this thing?
It's heavier than it looks, about maybe 20, 30 pounds.
I guess I can carry it, but I'm also carrying a lot of equipment already, so.
I'll take it then. Since you're gonna, yeah.
And it's it's certainly something you can pass around. It's not glued to any particular person. What are you discussing during the flight, or what are you doing during the flight? Start with Sylvia. What are you doing in the flight during the flight?
Well, it would be boring for me to say that I'm going to go to sleep. So, I'm going over the details of Isabella's sanctum with Reginald, with Reggie,
Okay.
and I'm just going through the rounds of did I saw X, Y, and Z. Did Isabel own any of those things? Was like the stuff that got dropped new to the place or old to the place, and just kind of just working our way through. And it's what we always do when we find a spot to look through. Just talk over all the details, try to catalog it, and move on. I've got photos. We're looking at photos and stuff like that.
All right. What about you, Reggie? Anything else you're doing?
Well, that takes up a lot of time. I'm probably also spending time going over all the pictures I took within that sanctum. Like, that's the best lead that I've had in months. Maybe pouring over any of the music that I saw and trying to. It's good Wi-Fi. It's a private plane, so I'm trying to download those MP3s to my phone, listen to it. There's got to be something, maybe some clue she left for me. Which
okay,
probably looks.
I will tell you, it is good Wi-Fi, but it's still satellite.
Sure.
So it's not. There's not a lack of aggravation at the how much faster it could be if you.
I can be patient if need be.
If you'd only remember to download these things before you set out.
Yeah, that's true. That's so true.
And Nate.
Yeah, I will actually get some sleep on the plane, but not the whole flight.
Yeah.
And I might not know archaeology, but I know a thing or two about rocks. So I'm looking at our finds. So maybe there is something I can learn by examining it.
You are looking at it. It was clearly whoever broke this off, and it was clearly broken off because you can see the chisel marks in there. It was not erosion, and it was not dropped. It was broken off with a chisel. Clearly did so with great force. And as you're looking at it, there's something that's just bugging you. And then I'm gonna go to Daniel, and then Daniel, what are you up to?
All right, so I think I spit in a cup, and I reach into my pocket for a deck of cards, and looking around the cabin, seeing that everyone else seems to be occupied with something. I go to not. There's no cabin crew, right? There's just
there is one flight attendant.
There's one flight attendant. So I look at the flight attendant and say, "Any interest in a little game of cards? When you're done with whatever needs to get done up here, it's just us."
Yeah, I think the flight attendant named Chris just comes over and smiles and brings over two of those little bottles of I was about to say Jack Daniels, but I feel like a private plane should have something nicer than Jack Daniels on it. It's a good Scotch. It's two little airplane sized bottles of a good Scotch, and 2 cups of ice, and sits down across from you.
So
Nate, something is bugging you and you're having trouble figuring out what it is as you look at this stone. I mean, it's also really nice that your chair goes all the way back, kind of almost bed style. So it's really easy, Nate, to get some sleep there. But something about the stone as you have it out is bugging you. What do you want to know about it, or what do you want to take a look at?
Well, yeah. So the force with which this thing was broken out, does it have to be supernatural? Like, could that be? Could it have been broken out by a human, or does it need vampiric strength to get this rock out of the chisel?
Why don't you roll with insight? And I put a roll for your party room up there. You guys can also just use 2d6 on your own if you have dice that you in front of you that you want to use. I trust you completely. And let me know what you get.
I got a 4.
A 4. You're really not sure. I mean, if there was some sort of mechanical element, certainly, like if it was a jackhammer type chisel, it could have been broken out. The weird imprecision is sort of what's bugging you. That whoever deliberately did this did not do it in a controlled way. They were clearly just trying to get a piece of the stone.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the fact that Chris keeps looking at the stone as you are looking at it is concerning. It's almost as if Chris, and it's not a like, oh, what does Nate have over, what does that guy have over there? It's a looking at it with some sort of intention, or yeah, I don't know. It's a looking at it like it's a like intention to take it.
Yeah, I look.
It's maybe you're paranoid.
Yeah, I look up at him and ask, "You know anything about this?"
And I think from the card game, he's positioned himself where he can see you, Nate, kind of behind from over Daniel's shoulder, and takes a swig of the scotch, and it's like I'm, just a flight attendant. I don't know. I don't know anything about archaeology. But I find it fascinating. It's rocks.
can I jump in there? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So as I'm doing the cards, I say, still, you must see some crazy shit up here. Like has your boss brought anything like that up here before?
I only, this is really my first big flight. And we're just contracted by the job. It would be inefficient to have one flight attendant for one private jet. So I'm really just, I read the briefing document, I show up. This is my first international flight. Anyway, I've never seen anything like that at all.
First for all of us here, and I.
All right. You don't know if it's distraction, Daniel, or lack of talent, but is money involved in your game?
So, like, I'm imagining we're playing like cribbage or gin or something for like a penny a point.
Yeah.
You know, like enough to be doing something, but not enough to matter.
You've collected a stack of pennies in the time you've been playing. In fact, hands are going pretty fast because you keep winning.
Is there a game you're better at, Chris? We could find something a little bit more even.
Oh, no. I just, I've never been good at cards. I just play to pass the time.
I mean, me too. Is everything all right with you? You seem a little bit uncomfortable.
I think it's when all of you begin to you hit the first bump of a pretty substantial turbulence. So much so that nothing spills or falls over, but definitely the little film of sweat at the bottom of your glasses, at the bottom of the 2 glasses of scotch, causes it to slide visibly across the table in front of you. And Chris picks up his and it's like, oh, gosh, it's turbulence. I really shouldn't be drinking on the job at all. Sorry about that. Please finish up. I should go check in with the. In fact, what all of you really should just go ahead and buckle up. No telling how long this turbulence could go on. And Chris goes to a few steps to the front of the aircraft where he picks up the phone to the cabin and just starts kind of clearly speaking in a very low tone. The hum of an engine creates a good bit of privacy for conversations on airplanes. So it's definitely speaking in a low tone to somebody probably in the cabin. Like I said, you have a pilot. You saw a pilot and a co-pilot come on board. And the turbulence definitely continues. And you feel the plane sort of descend and ascend as if it's sort of looking for a space around the turbulence. And there's an increasing sense of vibration on the plane. And Chris is still talking to the person in the cabin. And you feel the plane sort of wobble. You don't feel any more of those bumps of turbulence, but you feel the plane sort of wobble. Just continuing with what you're doing.
Are there windows on the plane?
Yeah, it's nighttime. You can definitely see the flashing lights on the wings. And it's you've been flying overnight. You're definitely getting a sense of I'm going to do some real quick flight math in my head just because I'm an authenticity person. But you left around 10 o'clock at night in Paris. So I think you're getting back in to you're getting to New York at night. Sort of you're you're sort of ahead of the sun at this point, flying west. And definitely the flight path, like a lot of transatlantic flight paths, goes up and comes down via Canada. But right now out the windows, you can really only see the kind of flashing lights on the wings. You're definitely in a decent amount of clouds, though you think you see something that looks like a moonlight, roughly full moon. You can't get a good look at the moon, but you can see moonlight sort of hitting the clouds around you, and kind of you can see the outlines of the clouds. Looking down at the sea at night, you don't really see much. But yeah, every time the plane wobbles, you see the wings wobble.
Yeah, that's a bit worrisome, and I hand the rock back to Reggie and tell him, seems like Chris was super interested in this thing.
Huh. I'm buckling my seatbelt and reading the little pamphlet thing to remind me of exactly what are the steps, right? The thing, did you put the mask over your face first before you help someone else? Yeah, pilot's okay, right?
How are you just asking in general, or?
I was just asking Nate, basically.
Yeah, seems like it. But
Reggie, yeah, go ahead and roll with insight.
All right, I am going to use blue dice with pips.
Lovely.
I've rolled a 9 and my insight is 1, so that's a 10.
Yeah, you look around, look out the window, you ask about the pilot being okay. And you can see the cabin is on the little internal comm system with Chris, the flight attendant. He's standing to the forward part of the cabin. I mean, not very far from you, but like I said, hum of the engines creates a little kind of bubble of privacy. And it occurs to you that you're not hitting that much turbulence. That when you hit turbulence, there's sort of a bump in the air pressure or a change. The pilot's doing something deliberate to sort of simulate the experience of turbulence. He's sort of deliberately steering haphazardly to kind of give you the illusion of turbulence, but there's no pops or sudden jumps or bumps that you associate with turbulence. There's no that kind of sudden split-second movement that you associate with turbulence. The pilot is deliberately being wobbly with the plane.
I unbuckle my seatbelt. Something weird's happening. I'm heading up to the front, see what's up.
And I think that is when Chris pulls out a gun. Reaches for a gun, pulls it out, and starts to bring it up towards you. What are you all going to do?
I'm slowly reaching for the knife in my boot to get ready if something should happen and the situation escalate.
And Reggie just says, "Sir, I'm going to need you to return to your seat," as he's pulling his gun up towards you. Or sorry, Chris is saying that to you, Reggie. You're getting your knife extracted from your boot, Nate. You're walking forward, Reggie. What about the other two? Daniel and Sylvia.
So just to get a sense of the space, so he's standing. Chris is up front by the cabin door.
Mm-hmm.
We were, I guess, the two of us were sitting at a table.
Right.
Right. Were there two chairs facing each other? Was there a third chair on the end?
It's sort of a two chairs facing each other. It's a chair you can buckle into, but it's smaller than a normal airline chair because it's meant to just.
And like, how is that spaced in relationship to the other seating and where he's standing?
I believe that's sort of in front of the other seating, the official seating. There's just about 6 seats on the whole, like formal seats on the whole plane, and those are the ones that sort of go all the way back. And then where he's standing is about 10 feet roughly to the forward part of the cabin.
Can
the forward part of the passenger cabin, and he's been talking to the pilot or the co-pilot, one or the other, on the phone for the past several minutes.
Can I duck behind my chair? Is that a move I can make?
Yeah.
I try to duck behind my chair, and while I'm at it, I'm reaching for my pistol, if I still have it.
Right.
We have it.
Now, Chris, we don't want to cause any sudden loss of cabin pressure here. We can all talk through this like normal people. And she's basically just trying to distract him while somebody else makes their move.
Are you standing up? Or are you sort of like moving towards Reggie?
Yeah. I've stood up, but I don't want to crowd Reggie, so I'm as off to the side as I can be.
Okay, makes sense. And Reggie, you move fast. You move really, really fast. What's your plan?
I think I'm gonna deliver a beatdown. Yeah, I feel like I'm pretty quick, so that's my plan. Is just gonna roll up and take this guy down. Poor Chris.
Kind of get the gun. Club.
Yep.
You never saw it coming. Is the plan?
That is the plan. I'm sure that that's exactly how it'll go.
Why don't you roll with prowess?
I am happy to do that. I have rolled a 9 and I have a 2 in prowess. That's an 11.
This is amazing. Yeah, you roll let's just call it a D6. You're kind of clubbing him.
Yeah. Rerolling my 4. A 3.
All right. Do you want to let him get a kick in while you slam his hand against the...
You bet. No problems as long as I can disarm him. I'm much more interested in disarming him than avoiding getting hit.
Okay. Why don't you take a D6 of damage then?
Here's where I roll a 6. Hold on. Let me just go ahead and roll that 6 of damage to myself. Oh, no. It's only a 2? What's wrong with these dice?
I don't know. So he gets a kick in on you, trying to like get his hand free. And you're able to sort of twist with it. But this guy is strong like you used to be.
Oh, neat. Jealous.
He is, in fact, he's not super impressed by the punch you threw. It's more that he was distracted by that, and you got the gun out of his hand by kind of pinning it hard against the wall of the cabin, against some of the cabinetry there. And as you do that, You've got the gun out of his hand. It's not quite in yours, but he's definitely dropped it. And he's got to kick in on you. What is everybody else doing?
I'm rushing up there to support Reggie.
Why don't you roll with prowess? Just what's your goal? When you say support Reggie? Are you trying to help pin him?
Yeah, I want to help pinning Chris and maybe threaten him with the knife. Now that he doesn't have a gun, that's kind of an argument that might get him to stop trying to attack us.
Go ahead and roll with prowess.
That's an 8.
Awesome. All right. You kind of get into him, Nate, but despite his kind of small frame and small size, and he's not really throwing expert moves at you or anything like that. He's just really hard to pin, and you've kind of got him against the. Were you trying to like get his arms down, get him against the wall? What was your kind of?
Yeah, like maybe pushing him against the wall with one arm and keeping the knife up with the other.
Right. Okay. You have barely got him. He is. If he was moving, if you were not quite so fast, and since your pack is not with you, you're moving pretty friggin' fast. Since it's just you and a knife right now. If you were not quite this fast, you would not be on him right now. But he is about to get free from you, even though you've got him. And it's not moves; it's sheer physical force, which makes no sense because this is a little guy. The little guy, and it's not like he's got like martial arts training or acrobatics training or anything like that. He's about to just almost like pick you up and move you backwards. It feels like he's putting so much pressure on you, and then all of you feel the plane drop, and then the nose go down. So much so that there was, Chris had set his drink kind of on the cabinet towards the front. And it slides all the way across and tumbles onto the floor and rolls towards the forward part of the cabin. The nose of the plane is clearly going down at a decided angle. What are the rest of you doing?
I'm screaming to Chris, like, we haven't done anything to the masquerade, dumbass. I don't know why you're trying to kill us. And then I'm going to try to head for the front. Like, I'm going to go stop the pilot from killing us.
So you're going for that door, right?
Yeah.
Roll with prowess to get it open. I mean, these are private. I mean, this is a flimsy little door, but it's still latched and locked.
I rolled 7 + 2, 9.
9. You're able to get there and get it open, but just as you pull it open, you see the pilot pull up just slightly, kind of catching your feet out, moving your feet out from under you really quickly. And the co-pilot turns around and just throws a punch at you. Like he's up on his feet and he's just going to clock you. Why don't you do a D6 there?
All right. 3.
3. Yeah, you take 3 damage from that. And again, the co-pilot is freakishly strong. Um,
Son of a bitch.
and I haven't heard from Sylvia. What are you up to?
Well, at first, my first thought is to run to the back and start getting some parachutes.
Mhm.
But that's almost certain death at this point. So I'd like to explore this talent that I chose for my character of arcane.
Right.
And I don't know how it works mechanically, but if I could, I'd like to do something where my idea was to freeze vampiric blood, and hopefully that would mean targeting the bad guys here, potentially targeting Reggie, which would be sad, but that is my instinct. I do not know how magic works.
Yeah, there's as you have seen all the magic rules I have seen.
Okay.
I think you need to see some vampiric blood before you can manipulate it.
Okay.
But as you sort of open yourself out, one of the first things you learn as you study magic is just a sense of space and time for where you are.
Okay.
And you get a sense both from just your, the hair standing up on the back of your neck, that are not just like, oh, we're in a fight, but hair standing up on the back of your neck that say like, oh, we're in something really weird, really weird. That you are headed down into something that is not the ocean.
Okay.
You are pointed at something that's not that. I will tell you, you can ask me some more questions about that, but that's going to be an insight roll and potentially dangerous as you try to inquire about that. Extending your senses can sort of screw with things. You can, but if you want to ask me some questions, I think that's a good way to start with magic.
Okay.
So
I should roll first.
Yeah, but I think if you want to manipulate an occult substance like vampire blood, you want to be able to get your hands on the blood in a sense.
Okay.
So roll first, and we'll treat it a little bit like a discern realities.
Okay.
I
got a 13.
Brilliant. Why don't you ask me 4 questions?
Okay.
It can be about this situation. It can be about what you're headed into. It can be about these creatures, these people you're fighting. I didn't call them creatures. That would be insensitive.
I'll call them creatures. That's fine. So my first question. So I reach out and I touch the plane when I realize that the plane is heading into something different. And my first question is can I control where we go?
You would have to get control of the plane very, very quickly because you're noticing the vibrations are intensifying. And these are not natural vibrations. Even in a quick descent, a plane should not shake this much.
Okay. what connection does all this have to the stone slab that we have?
You would guess a significant connection based on Chris's interest, and the fact that something has caused you to change this. Something has caused you to a shift in the space that you're in. The stone slab seems like a very likely culprit for what's going on.
Okay. I'm gonna run back to the slab.
And you have 2 more questions. You can hold on to those, or
yeah, I'm gonna hold on.
And the slab is not far from you.
Okay. And I'm going to yell at the flight attendant and the pilot and the co-pilot, and I say, I will throw this thing out of the plane if you don't give us control. And that's my threat to try to get them to stand down.
Who's standing up right now? I believe it's Nate's standing, Reggie's standing, the co-pilot and the flight attendant are standing, and Sylvia's standing. Daniel, are you standing?
No, I'm I think still crouched behind the chair. I think all of this has happened very quickly, and my next move was going to be to try to get my pistol directly against Chris, but I may not have time. Like, I'm willing to say I took cover when he pulled the gun, and that was sort of, I lost the initiative there. So.
As a player, I'm not trying to prevent us from going where we're supposed to go.
Oh yeah. I'm just
trying to make it dramatic. That's all.
I'd like all of you who are actually all of you go ahead and roll with prowess, because the plane is suddenly the angle of descent is increasing dramatically. So I'd like you to roll with prowess to keep your feet.
Yeah, I don't. I have a 4.
You have a 4?
You just roll boxcars. Which sucks. Because I would be happy to just fall. But now I have to stand incredibly well, just so you know.
I rolled a 9. I was already on the floor also.
I got a 6 total. So I failed.
Nate and Sylvia, I'd like you to you're tumbling forward. Sylvia, you've got the stone. One second. Sylvia, you've got the stone. I'm going to give you a choice. Are you letting go of the stone to try to catch yourself? Kind of minimizing the tumble you're about to take, or are you going to hold onto that stone for dear life, possibly hurting yourself more?
I see the stone as the only collateral I have to stop these people. So I will hold on to it and get hurt.
Okay. You were going to get hurt anyway, but this time I'm going to ask you to roll 2d6.
Okay. I've got a total of 6.
A total of 6? Yeah, that's how much damage you take.
Okay.
As you go flying forward and not really able to catch yourself as you kind of you hit just a few inches away from the door. as the pilot is clearly deliberately popping the plane's level in order to throw you off balance and send you tumbling before going into a steeper descent. Nate, I'd like you to roll a d6. Or if sorry, are you going to let Chris go, or are you going to try to hold on to Chris?
I think I'm trying to hold on to Chris. If I'm falling, he falls with me.
Okay. Let's roll a 2d6.
That's an 8 now.
All right. You take 8 damage, but Chris is clearly hurt.
Is armor helping here?
I'm sorry?
Armor.
Yes, armor will soak some of that. Since you're really just clambering into things. Anything that will sort of, ease up on that will count. You've got your arm sort of around the back of the chair, Daniel, and you don't take any damage, but your gun goes spinning forward. And then you catch the co-pilot there, Reggie, the guy who just socked you, and you keep your feet under you, both with a great sense of balance and a good sense of timing. You can see what the pilot's doing, so it's not as huge a surprise to you. So you're able to flex your knees, use your shoulders to brace against the door frame, all those things that keep you from falling over, and you're able to grab the co-pilot who just hit you. You're at a pretty steep angle of descent, though. And out the front window of the plane, Reggie, you can see sort of a weird glow coming from the ocean.
What in the hell are you idiots doing?
And the co-pilot, I mean, you've seen the pilot. Clearly the pilot is human. You've watched him, and you know what to watch for in vampires. But the co-pilot was not nearly as social when he boarded. And he flashes you a big grin, and you see his fangs retract or extend. That was the word I was looking for. You see his fangs extend.
Okay. It's a vampire!
What are you doing?
I want to try to keep us from crashing. Why do they want to kill themselves? That makes no sense. So yeah, I'm going to try to wrest this gun away from the co-pilot. That's the first step.
So the co-pilot just slugged you. He didn't shoot you.
Okay, but I'm sorry. I thought I heard you say
he's extending his fangs. Sorry.
Oh, co-pilot extending fangs.
Yeah, it was Chris who had the gun.
I don't know why. Maybe it just stuck in my head.
It was Chris who had the gun. Sorry.
Wow, I can't beat a vampire. This is terrible. I'm going to drag him into the cabin.
Roll with prowess.
Okay. I've wasted all my good rolls, so here comes the 3. Oh, man, I lied. That's 9 plus 2, 11.
Nice. Yeah, you were able to kind of heave him backwards into the main cabin. and there's not much left between you and the pilot. What are the rest of you about to do?
I'm breaking Chris's nose with the grip of my knife, so he doesn't. So he's incapacitated for a while, and
no.
I can take care of vampires.
Yeah. Make that roll with prowess there, Nate.
An 8.
An 8. 8 total?
Yes.
All right. You come down on him. But you shift enough that I think you're in the way of the person that Reggie is tossing back into the main cabin. And the three of you sort of land in a heap. Chris is not going to get up anytime soon. He's too busy clutching his face from the pain. But you and this other creature are sort of down on the floor next to each other. And you notice that there's a mouthful of fangs on this one. But you notice also the mouthful of fangs that just extended. It's not just the canine teeth. It's all the teeth in this thing's mouth that are pointed, almost like an animal's mouth, but looking more decisively sharp. Sylvia, what about you?
So,
You got the stone,
right, which I my original assumption was that like they needed this. I don't know. Maybe they don't. They don't seem to be listening to me whatsoever. So, I'm going to.
and you still have 2 questions too that you've not used.
Right. Um, I go. I run back to my seat. I drop the stone. I go into my pack. I pull out a whole bunch of stakes, and I chuck one to Daniel,
Okay.
and I chuck one um, to Reggie, and I've got one for myself. And I'm ready to, if I see a moment that I can take advantage of. Actually, I'll ask you this question: when is the next bump going to occur?
You've noticed fewer and fewer bumps.
Well, I want to use something.
Since the angle of descent sort of increased.
Oh, okay. I want to answer the question like, when will the vampire be distracted so that I can try to stake him?
The vampire seems to be pretty distracted, tangling with Nate right now.
Okay.
So if you move fast and hit hard, you might be able to get something placed exactly right. It's hard to do it when they're still moving.
Can I help him with that?
Yeah. Ideally, you want to beat them senseless and then stick the stake in.
Well, I know that Daniel is a lot stronger than me, so I'm going to set Daniel up for the stake. So I'm trying to work with Nate to pin this guy down.
Okay. And now Nate and this guy are just sort of in a tangle. So you're just going to try to pin him down. That will also keep him from biting Nate.
Okay. Yes, I am trying to pin him down.
All right, go in there and let's do that.
Okay. Do you mean to roll dice?
Yeah, please. Sorry. Roll with prowess. I apologize.
Sure. 8 + 1 is 9.
9. Okay. you sort of are able to kind of throw yourself forward and land on top of him. And you've got him pinned. He flips his arm around, though, and I'd like you to roll a d6 and add 1. Or he flips his head around.
Oh, okay. A 7 total.
Ooh, yeah. He flips it. You've not seen his face. You just heard Reggie identify him as a vampire when he called out. You've not seen this guy's face. But as you sort of get your weight on top of him, pushing him down, your arm sort of slides under his neck. As you kind of get him in sort of a hold. And he just takes that opportunity to bite your arm. And this is not like having a child bite your arm. You've had to deal with that as a pediatrician before.
Right.
This is not even like having an adult bite your arm. This is like having a bear bite your arm.
Oh, okay.
You take 7 damage.
7, okay.
And he's not letting go. It's almost like he's planning to. He's not biting you to get you to let go. It's almost like he's biting to eat your arm.
Oh, that's awful. Okay.
And Nate, you see blood from Sylvia start to stain the carpet and the guy's face. And he's not coming up from that. And it's not the, like, for lack of a more disgusting image, it's not the slurping sound you've heard when vampires normally bite people. It looks like he's about to just kind of like bite down and then pull a chunk of Sylvia's arm off. Daniel, what are you doing? You have a stick in hand.
As Sylvia and Nate have this creature that I'm still convinced is a vampire. Like, I don't have the close look that Nate has. I just see that, he hit her and she's bleeding from the arm, and I take advantage of that moment to lunge forward and like stab him like in the soft part of their arm, under their armpit there towards their heart with the snake.
Make a prowess roll.
I can do that. There's a thing I can do. So 8 + 1 is 9.
It goes in, though clearly you did not hit the heart, or did not significantly hit the heart. Roll a d6 and add 2.
Oh dear.
That's not for you.
Oh, that's nice. 7.
7?
Mm-hmm.
That does get him to let go of your arm there, Sylvia. As he kind of opens his mouth to kind of scream. You feel the pressure come off, and your arm is bloody, but it's not torn up. As he flips around, sort of rolling out from between you and the two of you. Reggie, you're up there.
Yeah. Do we have any obvious weapons?
The pilot does not. You have whatever you would normally have on you.
Oh, right.
You're on a private jet.
Yeah, we're on a private jet.
You kind of faked up airport security, but you got back anything you wanted once you got through the security checkpoint.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I will stake him because I always carry a stake. It's easy.
Now, are you coming back in to go for the co-pilot, or are you?
Oh, you're right. So if the
pilot is clearly a human.
I'm going to stop us from crashing. They can take care of it. I trust these guys.
Okay.
So,
With
yeah,
prowess, are you trying to like grab the pilot's hand?
Yeah,
Describe
no,
what you're doing. Are you trying to grab the pilot's hand? Are you trying to pull?
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna grab his hands. Maybe this guy is a vampire. Like I don't. Mouthful of teeth is weird, but I've seen worse. He's probably a Sabat or something crazy like that. So I'm gonna try to grab his hand and pull back on the stick.
You are bigger than him, tougher than him, and in a really good position. So what I want you to do is not roll prowess. I'd like you to roll insight because you're trying to use grabbing to him to control a plane. Not a big plane. But I want you to, it's not a matter of can you grab his hands and make him do something. It's can you get him to do the right thing.
Oh my goodness, the good luck continues. I rolled a 9, I have a 1 insight, that's a 10.
Awesome. You're able to sort of, at the angle you're at, you don't want to level off the plane too much. But you're able to sort of bring the plane into a turn. And that's when you feel it. He was heading straight into it. But as you pull the plane into a turn, you feel that the plane is sort of caught. But he was clearly taking the plane down at an aggressive pace. But at this point, there's no water beneath you. There is kind of a weird sort of moonlight glow. Which is weird. You're not really seeing the moon in the sky right now. I mean, you were up there earlier where you could see the moon above the clouds based on your elevation, but down here, you're not really seeing a moon in the sky, but there's this kind of odd moonlight glow off a series of buildings. It strikes you, Reggie, that it's a little like that time that you and Isabel went to Rome. And there's these kind of odd sort of like stacks of history in Rome where, you just see like, really modern buildings, and then you see and you're not really seeing modern buildings, but you're seeing buildings in like weird different styles. And they're sort of ethereal and ghostly around you right now, but you're turning into a curve sort of around them. You can certainly try to plow through them. You can try to angle into an alley or a street, and bring the plane down there. What would you like to do?
Like us to not crash and die. So
and there's nothing solid you're sure you're going to hit. But there are definitely these weird ethereal sort of translucent buildings. And there's no water.
Weird. What are you doing? Where is this?
And he's busy trying to fight with you to regain control, but you have like a plane in this turn. And he just you are messing everything up as he tries to like push the stick forward just to resume diving.
Are you trying to crash and kill us?
I don't care if you live or die.
Well, guess what? I learned how to land a plane today. I'm going to beat the shit out of this guy and take over the...
I'd like you to roll with insight one more time.
Okay.
Actually, roll with resolve, because he's fighting back now.
Okay.
So I'd like you to use resolve. Can you
roll a 7 and have a 0 resolve, so it's exactly a 7.
Okay.
Oh shoot, I could have used strain. That would have been a smart move. Oh well, too late.
And you were gonna use what? I'm sorry.
No, I just realized I could have used strain. For anybody that hasn't played Breakers, you can use strain, and that gives you an extra die that you get to add in. It's super, super cool. But I didn't, and I'm good with it. I'll live with it.
And as you keep the plane from like diving, but keep it at sort of a curving angle. Sylvia, what would you imagine in a cityscape that's unfolding before you that has, not the kind of place that would have an airport? Where would you put down a small plane like this?
Okay.
In your imagination.
My imagination. In a field, like, I don't know, like a farmer's field. I don't know if this place has farms.
It would definitely have, possibly a park, maybe farms, maybe just vacant lots or vacant unbuilt space.
Yeah, a park then.
Reggie, you see you see a place that you can sort of coast into. It looks like you're not really sure what to do or how to make it happen. But it seems to be becoming slightly more solid. It's a space of open trees, and it seems to almost just appear in front of you. As if just, but like it's one of those kind of parks you might see in a city that has like tree-lined sides, but a big sort of open like sports and lounging field in the middle. And it's becoming more solid. And that's when the pilot kicks his legs up and tries to use his legs to return the plane into a dive. If you could just keep it straight on, you're hoping it would just kind of bounce along the bottom of this sort of weird park that's just sort of appearing out of nowhere.
Okay.
Between the buildings. But he seems to want to dive past everything into it.
Huh. Okay, I don't want to let him because he's crazy and said he wants us to die. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to hit that landing spot and get him off the stick. I've seen movies. I know how it works.
It definitely seems like you have, more of a chance just coasting into something than diving into whatever is down beneath these weird ethereal buildings that are very, very slowly becoming more solid. Make a prowess roll just to push him aside or knock him down, or what's your strategy for keeping him from...
Grab the stick, hold with one hand, elbow, elbow, elbow. That's the plan.
Nice. Make that plan happen. Roll with
I am going to use a strain
yeah.
to do this. So I'm going to re-roll my 2 dice that I have and then roll a third. Glad I made that choice, my brothers. Let's see if this one doesn't suck. And it's a 2. So I've rolled a 6 on the dice, but luckily this is a prowess roll. I have a prowess of 2, so that ends up being an 8.
Okay. You bring the plane in, but it still is curving. And then you remember you have no idea where landing gear is. Reggie, and you have no idea how to kind of extend the landing gear. And that's when you feel the first bump on the bottom of the plane. And I'd like everybody to roll with prowess, just to see where you end up in this small plane, how much you kind of control your descent in this small plane. Or kind of, are you able to kind of control your actions as this plane sort of spins across this sort of soft, ethereal, open field that seems to be appearing beneath it, as if out of nowhere. And let me know how you do.
9 plus 1 is a 10.
Nice.
I've got 11.
Nice.
Got an 8.
And what about you, Nate?
Which attribute is it?
You're rolling with prowess.
Then it's an 11.
11. All right. It is definitely a tough, weird thing. You feel bumps. But it's almost as if they aren't fully affecting the plane, or they're not affecting the plane in the way that you would expect them to. It's almost as like the plane is landing on pillows or snow or something that is giving way beneath it, at least part of the time. Reggie, you go flying to the side on that second bump into the cabin, and you kind of impact hard with the pilot seat and then with the dashboard, with the co-pilot seat and then with the dashboard. And then your face hits the side of the cockpit windows. Roll a d6 plus 1.
I rolled a 2, so that's 3. 3 hit points I take?
Yes.
That sucks. Hurting.
The the cabin door gives way, and the cockpit windshield breaks outward. Reggie, before you notice that the small framed pilot who was struggling with you and not really able to get you were pretty physically dominating, seems to have just slammed his hand into the cockpit window and pushed it, shattering outward. It seems to hurt him pretty badly, but he's trying to kind of scramble through that. Chris is still sort of on the ground, but he's crawling towards the cabin door. And the vampire you were struggling with is sort of crouched up and moving speedily towards the cabin door. Already has his hand on it and is trying to open it. What are all of you doing?
How close am I? I lost my gun in the in the turbulence, but how close am I to it?
You are
visible. Can I see it? Do I know where it is?
You can see it. Yeah, you can definitely see it. You can definitely see it and try to recover it. I
mean, what I'd like to do is some kind of like a cool like roll thing where I like scoop it up and end up with it pointing towards the vampire, but I'm not sure that might be a big ask.
I think that's actually a quite reasonable ask.
Yeah. Awesome.
But you're aiming towards the vampire, who is moving pretty fast. He has already sort of cracked the door. But you're going to try to roll and do that. I'd like you to roll with prowess. I feel like I'm falling back on prowess a lot, but I feel like, you know.
Wait, it's a fight. That's 9. 8 plus 1.
You've got the gun in your hand. So you got the gun in your hand. I'd like you to roll a d6 and add 2.
Okay. That's 3 plus 2 is 5.
He hisses at you, throws the door open, and then goes scrambling out into the night. And that's when you notice your gun is jammed.
Lovely.
As you may be trying to repeat that, but your gun is jammed. So you will not be able to use it to interfere with anyone else. Chris is also bolting for that door, and the pilot is trying to scramble out the windshield window.
Chris doesn't know the gun is jammed, right?
Chris does not know the gun is jammed.
If Chris was pretty close to me, can I stop him?
You can try.
I will try to stop him. Like just sliding in there and trying to kick away his legs.
Nice. Okay. Roll with prowess.
That's a 10.
That's a 10. You kick away his legs and he sort of falls forward, sort of face down. He was clearly trying to reach for something. So you caught him at the perfect moment to prevent him from grabbing something. His gun is gone, so you're not sure what he was going for. Sylvia, what about you?
Let's see. He's running away. What happened with Nate's roll? Did he?
Nate knocked him down to the ground. He was sort of like scuttling away, and Chris is now flat on his face.
Great. I
He was reaching for something too.
Okay. So I've got a useless arm that I was trying to hold him down with before that's now been chewed up. So with my offhand, I pick up a stake and I just try to fall down on top of him. And
Now, just to clarify, you know that Chris is not a vampire. You could see by interacting with Chris that he was not a vampire.
So we've just been trying to. Oh, this is Chris, not the vamp.
Yeah, the vampire just sort of knocked open the door. He took a hit, but then got through.
Oh, okay.
He was moving really fast. He got shot.
I see. I don't know what our policy is on ghouls.
I'm sure there are a few questions he has to answer.
Well, then, let's see. If he needs to be able to answer questions,
we do have zip ties.
Yeah.
You can try to pin him down and zip tie his hands.
Yeah. It'll be tough. I have a really mangled arm, but that's what I'm going to try to do. Thanks, Philip. I had forgotten about that. Yeah. I will. I'll put my knee into the small of his back and grab his hands and try to pull a zip tie around it.
Roll with prowess.
Okay. Wow. 9 + 1 is 10.
9 + 1 is 10. Awesome. Yeah, you've got the zip ties around his hands. And also, you see that what he was reaching for was a pill of some kind.
Okay. For
like
a rave, gonna have some ecstasy or something.
It is a gel cap. And it's filled with something white.
Have I encountered ghouls with these kinds of pills before?
No.
Okay. Well, I kick it out of the way then.
Okay. The pilot is heading out the window there. Reggie, what are you up to?
So we've landed. He's hurt himself. He's trying to climb out of the window.
You've hurt yourself.
Yeah, it's fine.
You're on the ground and you are no longer spinning.
My guys are good. Sylvia's good.
That co-pilot just jumped out the cabin door and ran away, though Sylvia has... It looks like she's pinned she pinned down the flight attendant.
I'm heading back to the team. We can track this guy. He's bleeding.
So you just let him run?
It's a crazy city. He might go get extra people, but I need guns and gear and stuff before I go out. This is some kind of vampire plot, and that means badness.
You move back into the cabin with the team as the pilots, and you pull up the Chris. And we're going to wind up as we are hitting time, and I want to have... We're hitting almost time, and I am ending about 30 minutes early anyway, but I want to have like a few minutes just to talk about where you guys would like to see the story go, what you think is potentially interesting, what you would like to see your characters do. And you see two things. You see the cabin door is open, and you just see sort of like it's not like you're looking at something in black and white. It's like you're looking at something when the light is so low that you can't make out color. And there's clearly grass and trees, 20, 30 feet in the distance out that door. There's no sign of the vampire who tore up Sylvia's arm. You see Chris whip his head back. And he lets out a small sort of yell. He's looking straight out the door. And then you see everyone but Sylvia, I think, sees Chris because Sylvia, you're pinning him down and putting the zip ties on and pulling him up and kind of controlling him. But I think everybody else sees Chris yell, and he clearly, quite deliberately, bites down on his tongue and does not let up. And I think, Reggie, you're standing in the position. You've moved back in. You're not quite in the cluster, and you have enough distance to see a small trickle of blood sort of come down the side of his mouth, as he clearly looks panicked about something. And Daniel and Nate, I think you can see everything outside start to get darker and darker. You can see the grass, and then all of a sudden it's as if you're watching the sunset in not looking at the sun setting itself, but you're kind of looking at nightfall in sped up motion. You're everything outside the door gets darker, and then almost like a smoke filling the cabin. It's just kind of darkness sort of intrudes, almost like it's fog or smoke coming in, but it's just an absence of light. And I think the last thing any of you notice is what looks like a man in a very nice but casual suit. Maybe a nice jacket, turtleneck, slacks, really nice shoes. These are just kind of impressions you have as night is coming around you. And he has the head of almost like a jackal.
Where the hell are we?
And he answers back and says, the question is, who the hell are you? And where is Nurgle? And I think that's where we're going to end.
Nice.
That is nice.
All right. Thank you, guys. I'm going to stop the broadcast, and then I'm not going to do a full Roses and Thorns, but I'd really like to just get a couple of thoughts from each of you about things you'd love to see. I think all of you are up for the next session. Jesse, are you?
Yeah, I
it
am.
looks like he is.
Okay, awesome.
I am.
Can I have, once we stop, can I take 2-minute bio?
Sure thing. I'm going to stop the broadcast.